Hi, I'm Ben,
And I'm Zach.
and welcome to the Movie Vault.
Today we'll be discussing The Notebook.
It's a 2004 movie directed by Nick Cassavetes.
It's a movie that is forgettable in more than one way.
So everybody grab your notebooks and let's dive right in.
All right, let's get to the plot. What happens first?
Well, we get this opening scene. There's sunset, some rowing, piano music, and you see this old lady staring out the window.
Well, hold on. The sun in that shot was very, very red. It almost looked alien, you know?
Yeah, so maybe that's some sort of subliminal messaging that we got going on there. I don't really know.
Either way.
We transition to a old man who is apparently named Duke, and he is trying to read to this older lady who has been staring out the window.
She clearly has dementia. It reveals it later, spoiler, but she clearly has dementia. She doesn't remember anything, and he starts to read her a story. And this is where the story begins.
The story is about a character named Noah who meets this girl named Allie at a carnival. She is not really into him at first because he's very aggressive in coming on to her.
Mm-hmm.
But we see that she is intrigued by his confidence, especially when he pulls off this stunt.
He goes on to, Noah follows Allie and Allie's friend who's with Allie, and they go on a Ferris wheel, and Noah climbs on their Ferris wheel right as it goes up, so he doesn't actually have a seat on the Ferris wheel, he's just hanging from it by their seat car, and then they go all the way to the top, he's getting yelled at, and Noah hangs by one arm and says, "You have to go out with me or I'm gonna fall." And eventually it goes back and forth, like, no, you can't do that, but then eventually Allie says yes.
And this shows a bunch of things to Allie. One, that he is very stupid, also very resilient, and he's strong. I mean, he's hanging there by one arm for like a really long time.
Yeah, and he's pretty brave too. I mean, I feel like I would be pretty scared.
Yeah, like he just had this sly look on his face like nothing was even happening.
It's Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, Ryan Gosling, he's kind of like that.
Yeah.
She isn't really that interested. She was just trying to get him to not kill himself. But after more persistence, he ends up going on a double date with her to the movies.
Yeah. So they go on a double date with their friend Finn and Finn's girlfriend. And Noah and Allie walk home that night after they watch a movie together. And by the way, his friend Finn is a total simp in the entire movie.
Yeah, he kind of is.
Yeah.
I mean, you can make a case that Noah's kind of a simp too, but not as much.
He is, but he's the main character, so you can't really
Yeah,
say
we
that.
can't call him a simp.
Anyway, so Noah and Allie walk home together on the street, and they have this little moment where they lay down on the street together, and they talk about Noah used to lay down there as a kid with his dad and look at the stoplight, and then eventually they start dancing, slow dancing on the street together. And it's a weird, but it's a sweet moment. It's a very sweet moment. It pulls on the heartstrings a little bit early on.
And from this moment, we kind of see them starting to fall in love with each other. Allie, in a kind of funny sequence, Allie gives a painting to Noah, but her dad is there, and her dad opens the painting instead of her, and kind of makes some snide remarks. And it's just, you kind of see that there's a good relationship between Noah's dad and him.
Yeah.
And Noah's dad is one of the better characters in the entire movie.
He is. He's pretty cool. And then it goes into a montage, the first montage of many montages in this montage film. Basically, it's Noah and Allie dating. They're getting along very well, and they fight a lot. But in the end, it says that they're crazy about each other.
And so everything seems to be going well. They're doing all these kind of crazy dates. They're rope swinging into ponds. They're doing hillbilly stuff. But in one scene, we see them saying goodbye to each other, and they kind of kiss a couple of times, passionately.
Oh yeah.
And then she walks up on the porch, and who is sitting on the porch but her father?
Yes, her very rich father. And her father asks to meet this boy.
And this is kind of a psych out because we think that the father is like gonna like own Noah and kind of like put him in his place.
Yeah.
But it doesn't turn out that way.
Well, the only thing is, in the next morning they go to a dinner, and Noah goes to Allie's family's dinner or breakfast or lunch. I don't know. Either way, they're eating with Allie's family, and Allie's mom tells Noah that Allie plans to move to New York. And for the next couple scenes, they don't actually talk about this. Noah finds out, he's a little disappointed, but you can tell that they don't really have that much of a communicative relationship in that moment. Noah takes Allie to an abandoned house that night, and Noah wants to eventually buy that house, he reveals. And he brings that up because he wanted to know how serious Allie thinks they are. He says, so I eventually plan to buy this house. And then he says that, what did you want to have a say in this? And she says, yes, of course I'd like to have a say in this. And that kind of made him smile because they're talking about a distant future, and Allie and Noah both realize that they plan to be in each other's lives in that future.
So this is the point where they really kind of decide that they're in love with each other. And as teenagers who are 17, who are unaccompanied do, they started kind of getting a little passionate. But before it got too far, Allie started kind of freaking out. She's 17 years old. She doesn't know whether the decisions she's making are going to impact her later. And then she starts to calm down. But as she calms down, Finn comes running in.
Yep.
And apparently the cops around the town have been looking for her because her parents are understandably worried. I can't really put
It was 2 a.m. So
It was 2 a.m. in the morning. They didn't know where she was. There's not even cell phones around in the 1940s, which this story is set in. And I can't really blame them for being a little bit upset.
Yeah.
In fact, I think they probably handled the situation pretty well.
They did. They did. Noah takes Allie home, and her parents make Noah wait in their living room area. And Allie fights with her parents. They're saying, don't throw your life away to this guy. He's a nice guy, but he's got nothing going for him. And Allie says, she tells her mom that her mom doesn't look at her dad the way that she looks at Noah. And that kind of ends the argument, and Allie goes out to Noah. And then Noah brings up New York, that she's going to New York. And then she says that he can come with her. But then Noah says, no, I don't know. This whole thing doesn't seem like it's going to work. So then he kind of almost breaks up. He breaks up with Allie in that moment because he doesn't think it'll work. And Allie kind of has a mental breakdown. And it's funny because she's at first in the beginning of the little fight, she says, I hate you. But then at the end, she's like, wait, we're actually breaking up, are we?
Yes. We see the kind of out of control temper that Allie kind of has. And Noah is not very adept at dealing with this kind of temper very well. I'm not sure what he could have done better necessarily, but he doesn't seem like he cares some of the time. And he actually does, but he's not very good at expressing it most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
He understandably doesn't want to go to New York because South Carolina is his home.
Yeah.
It's where he's comfortable.
He's
It's
a country boy and she's a city girl, so they don't want to go out of their comfort zone.
Yeah. And so she sees that as he doesn't want to come be with me and do whatever. So he obviously doesn't care that much.
Mm-hmm.
And that leaves them in a very shaky place leading up to her leaving.
And just some advice for anyone in a relationship. It's a good idea to make sure that you say what you feel and why you feel it instead of just saying hurtful things to each other in the moment, because eventually the hurtful things can last a long time and cause things to end when they don't need to. I think a better communication between these two people would have solved this movie a lot earlier on.
Yes, definitely not being caught up in your emotions and speaking rationally is much better advice for a couple in their situation. And then in the morning, Allie finds out that she is moving back to Charleston before she moves to New York sooner than her family thought. And so this kind of upsets her because she thought she was going to have a chance to work it out with Noah. She goes to the lumber yard to see him. Instead, his friend Finn is there, and she tries to talk to him because Noah is out on a delivery. And Finn says things are pretty bad. Noah was really torn up about the whole thing. It really seemed like it's over. But she told him to tell Noah that she still loved him. And right as she leaves, Noah comes back, and obviously he's upset that he didn't get to say goodbye. And he tries to get there, but by the time he gets to the house, she is gone.
And then we get to another long 3 scenes of 3 different montages.
They should have called this the montage book.
I agree. Anyway, Allie leaves, and Noah for the next 365 days, which is a year for those of you, and he writes a letter every single day to Allie.
We're assuming it's not a leap year.
True. And Allie doesn't receive these letters. You can clearly tell in the next scene. But after the 365 days, Noah writes his last letter, and it's a farewell letter, saying she hasn't responded in a year. I think it's over. He finally gives up after a year.
You have to be impressed by his tenacity, and he didn't know that the reason that she never answered was something that will be kind of explained in the later part of the movie. But he leaves with Finn to go to a big city to work, and then World War II is starting up. People are being drafted, so he naturally enlists in the army. And this part of the montage, I did not really like because they really threw in some stuff and then it like had no effect on the rest of the movie.
Yeah, they really butchered the army stuff.
Yeah, so he was in war and Finn died and he's like, "Ah, I guess he's dead." And then they move on. Why did they have that in there if it didn't have any effect on the rest of the movie?
Because Finn basically told Allie that it's over, and Finn brought them back together at the movie theater, so he's a plot device. And he's useless after that scene, so they kill him.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is this sequence isn't the best, but anyway, we also go back to a montage about Allie.
Yes. Allie becomes a nurse in World War II, and she helps a guy recover. Like, this guy's in a full body cast, and he asks her out. Again, very confident guy.
And it's kind of like the way that Noah asks her out in the first scene,
Yeah.
which I think is what draws him or her to him.
Yeah, she likes confident guys. She definitely is a type. But yeah, and so she helps this guy recover and eventually falls in love with him. And this guy's name is Lon. Yes, like your front lawn.
Yes. And we find out that Lon is not exactly like Noah. First of all, Lon is extremely rich. He comes from Southern money, just like Allie does. And he has a way of being able to give her a good time and an enjoyable time. And it's draws parallels to the relationship between Allie's parents, I would assume, because he comes from money and she also comes from money. And so they're used to the social circles that come along with that.
Yep. And so then Allie and Lon are at this party, and Lon has this long conversation with Allie, talking about marriage and why they shouldn't get married. And then Lon proposes to her. And then at the moment she said yes, but the narrator in that scene said when the moment that she said yes, Noah's face came to her mind. So that was planting a seed for it's not over, which is pretty obvious, but they had to say it.
Yes, and I have to mention that we didn't know every time that they cut back to the old man reading the book to the old lady, but it's gone back and forth several times. Anyway, they're about to get married. Wedding preparations are being made, but we come back to Noah, who's gone back to his father.
Yep.
And they decide it's time to rebuild that dream house, the one that would look like the haunted mansion.
The one that they made out in. And Noah's dad sells his own house and gives the money to Noah.
And they start working on it together as a labor of love, especially when Noah finds out that Allie is in a relationship.
Uh-huh.
And then that kind of gives him this tenacity. And then his father dies. His father dying clearly affected him. Unfortunately, the movie is not very good at representing how much it affected. Again, like Finn's death, it just kind of happens, and then you move on.
It almost seems like Noah only cares about Allie and not his father and not his best friend. His best friend dies and his father die within a short period of time, or a short kind of period of time. And it seems like his only focus is on Allie the entire time.
Yeah, if he was more upset about people close to him dying mixed in with missing Allie, I would be more understanding, but the movie didn't really make it seem like that was what Noah's internal struggle was.
Yeah. So then over the next few months, Noah rebuilds the house. He makes it look very, very nice. But the whole time, all he can think about is Allie. I said that in the beginning as he built it. And he finishes the house. Lots of people... Eventually, he gets bored. Like, a few days in, he gets drunk and he gets bored. And then he puts it up to sell it. So, yeah, he wants to sell it. And lots of people give offers, bigger offers than he asked for. But for some reason, in his mind, he just can't sell it, even though he put it up on the market.
And we see that he is in a relationship with this girl named Martha. But this relationship is really not a good one, especially for Martha. Essentially, Noah feels lonely and he needs somebody there for him. But he only needs somebody there for him a little bit of the time. And he's clearly not giving back to her what she's giving to him. Mm-hmm. And you kind of see that it's bad for Noah in that... well, it's mostly bad for Martha. I would say that Noah, it kind of shows his true colors when you see their relationship. And wedding prep takes place at Allie's house. Then we see a scene that is very important to the movie, where she notices that Noah has rebuilt the house through a newspaper, or the house through a newspaper clipping.
It was on the front page, well, the back front page of the newspaper, because he's listing his big fancy house. And she breaks down. She goes in the bathtub wearing her veil still. And she's got, I think, some wine or something. And she's just looking at that picture of him. so you can clearly see him. And Allie tells her fiance Lon that she needs some time to clear her head. So that's code for visiting Noah, basically.
And she's not very good at covering this up. It kind of shows Allie's true colors, and this is what we're probably going to talk about. Allie straight up and honest with Lon, because Lon is definitely not a bad guy, and he's trying to do his best to provide for her. And most of the things that she would find at fault with him aren't really his fault, like his situation and the fact that he's just not Noah. So she definitely should have been more straight up, but she goes to see Noah, and she's just going to talk to him, right?
Yeah. Yeah, supposedly.
Talk to him, have a few drinks,
just one drink, nothing more than
wouldn't
that.
hurt anyone.
Yeah.
And then she goes back to her hotel. Lon calls her, and she says, "Oh yeah, everything's fine. I just need some time alone." And he's just like, "Are you sure?" And she's like, "Yeah, everything's good."
Yeah. And anyway, so then it cuts to the old man and the old woman again, and he finishes a chapter of the story that he's reading her, and the doctor calls the old man in for a checkup. So the old man gets checked up, and the doctor and him have a conversation about the old woman, and the doctor tells him that there's no way for her dementia to get better. It's degenerative, and reading her stories won't do anything. But the old man says, when science fails, God can prevail. So he believes that he can still get to her.
Yeah, and we see that the doctor is not the only person. In another scene, his family came to see them, and they're like, "You should move back with us because there's no way that you're getting her back."
Yep.
And this is when we start to see how the old couple relate to the story.
And he's the only one that believes that he can reach her.
And so we're back to Allie and Noah, and they go out rowing in the morning. And this is where we get the iconic scene. They're rowing through the ducks, and then it starts raining. And this is where Allie and Noah finally decide that they're not done. It's not over.
And they decided that with their lips.
Yes, to say the least.
Yep.
And after this all happens, Martha comes over to the house, and she meets Allie in a very awkward scene, but she seems understanding because she always knew that Noah was looking for more. And that's really sad. Martha deserves better than that, and I don't feel like she was treated very well in this movie. And I hope that in this fictional universe, she found somebody that treated her a lot better than Noah did.
I hope so too, for her sake. And right after that, Allie's mom visits and reveals that she was the one that was hiding the letters from Allie, the ones that Noah wrote her for the 365 days. So Allie's obviously a little frustrated, but then Allie's mom came for another reason. She wanted to show an example of the situation that Allie's in that she had previously in her life. She takes Allie to the lumberyard again, to a different lumberyard or something like that, or like a work site, and points at a guy and basically says, "What you and Noah had is what I had with that guy right there. But look where he ended up. He's still working in this work yard, and he's not successful at all." And she explains that she still loves her husband, but she could have had that life where she wasn't that successful. So she just wanted to put everything to perspective for Allie. And then she, at the end of her visit, she gives Allie all the letters that Noah wrote her.
And she tells her, "I hope you make the right decision." And although I would say their situations are a little different at this point, because Noah, we don't really get a full grasp of where he is financially, but he seems to be a little bit better off than the guy in the lumber yard. He's kind of starting his career as like a furniture making person. I forget what you call that.
I don't know. But he also has a very nice property too, because he fixed up that house for all
Right,
those
and
years.
potentially could make a lot of money because he could sell it at any time.
Yeah.
But they get into an argument pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Because he's saying, "Why you gotta choose what you want. You can't choose for me, for Noah. You can't choose for Lon.
Or your
you can't
parents.
choose for your parents. You have to choose for yourself what you want. I don't want to lose you a second time, but I obviously can. And I did it the first time." And he says, "We argue, we fight all the time, but we can make it through it if we commit to each other." And with this, she drives off, which is obviously not the outcome that he prefers.
Yes, but she drives off and meets with Lon. And Lon says, "I can either kill the guy I can either beat him up or I can either leave you. And then he says, it's also your choice. So,
and he says none of the three outcomes end up with him being with her. So that kind of clues us in to the decision that she's finally going to make.
So then Allie comes back and chooses Noah. Finally.
Yes, it took long enough.
Yeah, it definitely
Obviously, there were some obstacles in the way, but she had there's a lot of things that went into her decision, and partly had to do with reading some of the letters. And this is kind of the end. Noah and Allie being together.
It's the end of the story that is in the notebook.
Yes.
That the old man was reading. And it's revealed a little bit through that the old man and the old woman are actually Noah and Allie in the future.
And Allie now has dementia. And so we get this ending scene, probably the last 15 or so minutes of the movie, where we see that through the memories that he has revealed to her in the notebook, she remembers him despite the fact that she has dementia.
But they explain that she can't remember for a long period of time. So they try to he had already prepared a nice table for them because he knew that he wouldn't have a long time. And they stand up and they dance together. And she's crying, he's crying, because they know that they don't have a lot of time together. And he reveals that he's done this multiple times before. He's taken a long time for her to get her memories back, but it's not a long time that she keeps them.
And then she immediately forgets. She starts freaking out. The nurses come, and Noah breaks down. It breaks his heart to see that she can't remember him anymore. Mm-hmm. And it's even more sad because you realize this isn't probably the first time that this has happened. And so we get a couple of more scenes of interactions between Noah and Allie.
When you think the movie's over, they'll add a couple more scenes every single time.
Yeah, honestly, the movie could have ended at that scene. But instead, Noah has a heart attack. Then Noah recovers from the heart attack.
Like the next day.
Yeah, somehow. That's what it seems like in the movie.
Yeah, basically. And then the nurse that works with Allie and Noah kind of lets off the guard so that Noah can visit Allie even though it's not allowed. And Noah visits Allie, and she remembers in that moment again. And they talk, and she says, "What are you going to do when I don't remember at all?" And he says, "I'll be here with you." And it's a very sweet scene. And then they lay together in the hospital bed, and then tell him what happens at the end.
And then they fall asleep in each other's arms. The nurse comes in the morning and sees them together, and she can't believe it. And as they've said, they believe that love can create a miracle and love can overcome anything. And I think this is kind of representing what love can overcome, this touching moment. Again, they could have ended it before this scene, but I guess it's kind of nice that they had this scene.
Yeah.
And then there were images of birds as the credits rolled. Early in the movie, she made Noah say, or she was like,
they're at a beach, and she says, do you think I could be a bird in another life?
And so then she makes him say that she's a bird, which is kind of weird. It kind of makes it sound like she's a furry, but
yeah, but I don't know. Yeah.
That's neither here nor there.
Yeah, I don't think that was a thing back in that time. But
well,
anyway,
who knows?
That's true. Yeah. So, but yeah, aside from this movie being really sappy, it had its good moments, and it had its moments that were drawn out too long. But I think overall it was an okay movie, and so I think that's the end of the movie.
Yes.
So yeah.
So now that we have gone over the plot, we will go back to our trademark 8-point system that we are slowly perfecting in format. And if you haven't heard it, we have 8 points.
Message, sentiment, character arcs, plot, cinematography, originality, acting, and style. And
out of that, you can get 80 total points. We turn that into a percentage to help you, because base 10 is easier to understand.
True. And then we average our 2 ratings.
And then we get our final rankings on the Movie Vault spreadsheet.
Okay, so let's start with the message. What do you think the message of this movie values in a point system?
Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. I'll give my rating first.
Okay, go ahead.
I give it a 6.
Okay.
The reason at first I thought I was going to give message lower because there was a lot that I didn't like about the middle sections of the movie. But when I watched the end, I started to realize that the movie was more about the Alzheimer's and love persisting through something difficult and the beginning of love being difficult rather than some of the issues that I had. The issues I had more had to do with the relationship between Allie and Noah and how they both seem very self-centered, and a lot of the way that they set up the characters didn't make them super likable by the end.
That's true, because when they do break up in that first part of the movie, both of the love interests that they go to end up getting treated badly when they meet each other
And
again.
it's not like these people were awful people. Like these were like
They were
people
good
that it
people.
seems like you should want to end up with.
Yeah. So yeah, I think so too. I think the message of this movie, I gave it a 5 out of 10, so it's not off your 6. I think the message of this movie was, it took a while to get there, but I think it was that they broke up and they were away for many, many years, and then they come back together, and then they even get through Alzheimer's together. So I think it's that love, when it's truly there, can last through being apart, and it can last through many years, and it can last through forgetting each other even. So,
Yeah, there's a lot of cool things in that regard.
and I don't believe that's true in real life at all, but it's a nice sappy message, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Whether I'm not very much experienced with dementia or Alzheimer's, but I would kind of doubt that there's many people who have that experience like they had in the movie. It's a very nice movie thing.
Yeah.
So let's move on to plot.
Okay.
All right, so I gave the plot a 4.
Okay, explain.
This plot is so messy, and the pacing is terrible,
Yeah.
and there's too many montages, and which might be more style, but I put it in plot anyway. It's a nice movie. It makes you feel good, but the plot is not super coherent, and it rushes at times, and it drags at times, at the wrong times.
Yeah.
And so I was fairly harsh on it, even though I do kind of like the part at the end, but I feel like
Yeah.
that doesn't make up for the whole thing.
Yeah, I think this is the first time in Movie Vault history that I have a higher rating than you, right?
Yeah, probably.
I gave it a 6 out of 10. And it's not because I like it. I think it was just meh. But I think a 5,
Above average.
a 5 might be better, but I gave it a 6 just because I did like the characters, even though they were kind of jerks to other people. And that doesn't have to do with plot, but I like the things that they go through because of the characters. So I cared about what was happening in the story because of the characters. Because when it's a love story, when it's an action movie, like they can go through the most random stuff and get through it. But when it's a love story, the plot is based around the characters. It's based around what the characters are feeling. So if you care about the characters a little, even just a little bit, then you care about the plot a little bit more. So I gave it a 6. It doesn't mean I liked it that much. It was okay,
Yeah.
though. But that's the only reason.
I feel like my score is lower because I had a harder time liking the characters.
Yeah. They were hard to like a little bit. But I did
I
like
kind of ended up liking some of the side characters better, like his dad.
For sure.
And sometimes that's a good thing, but in this movie, I don't think it was.
Yeah. All right, what's the third?
Let's go sentiment.
Okay. What'd you give it?
I give it a 5.
Okay.
To me, I feel like it could go up or it could go down. A sentiment's a hard one to necessarily judge right off the bat. Sometimes you know. And so I went right in the middle because I'm like, this one I could see that I could sentimentally like it more because I like the ending. But then I think about the parts in the middle again and I'm like more down on it. So it could be subject to change, but for now, I'm giving it a 5.
Again, I gave it a 7, so that's higher than you. And I only did that because I think the high moments in this movie hit me because I really liked the old people scenes, every single one of them, with the old versions of Noah and Allie. And I think those were the best parts of the movie, hands down. I mean, I love Ryan Gosling, and what's the girl's name again?
Rachel McAdams.
Rachel McAdams is good too. She's good in Doctor Strange, but
I didn't actually like her as much, but
yeah,
it's fine.
She's okay, but I don't think that we'll get into acting and stuff. But I don't know. I don't think she was the best in this movie, but I do like it. So yeah.
So character arcs.
Character arcs. Okay, I can do this one. Let's see. I gave it a 6 out of 10. And it's lower but kind of medium just because although the characters weren't the best, I still liked them and stuff because I wanted them to end up together so that other people wouldn't get hurt. But yeah, I think the character arcs for the side characters, they didn't really have any character arcs. They kind of they just base them around Allie. But I did care, since I cared a little bit about the characters, again, I cared about where they went. And I believe at the beginning, they were just having fun, being together. And I think they kind of matured throughout the movie, that love just doesn't have to be being next to someone. Love is sometimes being away, sometimes it's going through different paths. But it's just, I thought it was good that they would learn something like that.
I character arcs a 4.
Nice.
So lower than Zach. That's like below average. Zach's slightly above average.
Yeah.
And the reasoning for this is I don't think I particularly liked how most of the time love was used in this movie. The arcs seemed a bit sloppy from Noah's character. They both seem like they didn't really change at all. until you see them after they've been married for 50 years. That's the strength of the movie. I keep going back to that. But in terms of how their arc progressed in the story of The Notebook, it was kind of strange. And it felt like their love was based more on impulsive instincts rather than a long-term commitment that you need to work through. And there were parts where Noah was like, we need to work through arguments and you need to decide what you want. But I felt like a lot of the times they were just making really rash decisions without thinking about the consequences. And we're just led to assume that the rest of their marriage was great. Yeah. Because it seemed like it was at the end of their life.
Yeah, I think that's what I did. I think I based it more off of where they ended up than where they are for most of the movie.
And so for me, maybe I'm just having a hard time. You can grow and learn a lot over your lifetime. So maybe I'm underestimating that a little bit.
But they don't show it.
But they don't show it. So that was kind of hard for me.
Yeah. All right, what's the next section?
Cinematography.
Okay. So I gave it a 6.
Oh, really? I gave it a 6 too.
Very nice. The first shots were pretty cool with that blood moon, and I thought the shots overall were pretty good. It's a 2004 movie, and they made it look like it was from older than that because it takes place in 1940s, and it's in color, obviously, but they made it look pretty cool, and it kind of had a distinct like camera set just because it was. Yeah. It wasn't like out of the ordinary, but it looked pretty nice. Like the lighting was good and everything, so.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with Zach here for the most part. There was a lot of really nice shots. It's nothing. I would think we both rated it 6 because it's nothing like ridiculous or like pushing boundaries or anything. But for what the movie is trying to accomplish, the shots complement it really well. It's definitely as good as probably. I mean, maybe they could have pushed 7 on some of the things. Yeah. But yeah, the shots at the beginning and the end, some of the imagery with the ducks, and some of the it was just.
Oh yeah, we didn't really talk about that. When they're rowing, when they go for that little romantic boat ride, there's like an abnormally weird amount of ducks in the water.
Yeah, it's very strange, and I have to wonder like how much of their production budget they spent on.
I feel like they didn't spend a lot of money on it. I feel like they had either a good deal or access to that many ducks, and they're like, we can't refuse this.
Somebody just had a surplus of ducks, and they were like, all right, here you go.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was one of those deals where the director had to finance it himself. I don't really know though. It's just really interesting that there was that many
spend half the budget just on ducks.
Yeah, like in Bad Boys, Michael Bay used his own Porsche.
Really?
Yeah, like there's things like that. So we don't really know the origin. It's just really interesting to think about like how that came about.
Yeah, that's weird.
Like you just go into your producer and you're like, I need like
1,000 ducks.
1,000, yeah. It was probably like 1,000 ducks, and he's like, wait, what movie are you making? This is not the duck movie.
Yeah, that's true. It was weird. It was definitely because I wasn't focusing on them kissing or like them in the boat ride. I was focusing on the ducks the whole time.
Yeah. So maybe that brings us to our next category, originality, which I gave a 6.
I gave an 8 just because of the dementia storyline. I hadn't seen that before.
Okay, I felt like I was giving it bonus points for the dementia storyline. But honestly, maybe 6 is a little bit cruel, but I'm going to stick to it.
Yeah.
Because I think...
I understand it. I could easily give it a 6. It could be within that range.
It's definitely above average because of the Notebook and because of the dementia storyline. I think I just rated it lower because there was too many montages and like... plot devices like that's narration true. That I felt like were kind of weak and they kind of rushed things.
I kind of put that more. I get where you're coming from. I put that more into style for me.
Okay, I see. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, the concept's kind of original. You have any more thoughts on that?
No, I think the forgetting thing, although it was cheesy, I think it really hit the notes well.
Yeah. Yeah, it did.
Especially, I think those old people did really well. We already said that a million times.
Yeah, I don't. Who are those actors? I
have no idea.
James Garner. Oh, I guess we're getting to that. And Gene Rollins. Never heard of them. Oh, Gina Rollins. Excuse me.
I'm sorry, Gina.
So we're getting to acting, which I would have to say that I was not very super impressed for the cast.
What'd you give it?
I give it a 4.
I gave it a 5.
Ryan Gosling. I love Ryan Gosling. He's a great actor.
He's a heart.
He was okay in this movie at best.
Yeah.
And then Rachel McAdams
was not good.
Was not good. She was annoying. I mean, she could have done worse. I mean, she's still a better actor than I am, obviously.
I feel like her
so
character,
as the critic, I have to be a little bit humble
Yeah.
myself and say that like I know nothing about acting, but she just kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
her character was already kind of annoying, but I feel like her acting made it more annoying.
Wait, what?
Like
you gave it a
she was
5.
very whiny and I don't know. She threw fits and stuff, and she's like
better in Doctor Strange. I don't
Yeah.
think Rachel McAdams is.
she's
a bad
better in Doctor
actress.
Strange because she barely has a role in Doctor Strange.
Yeah, I'm guessing throughout her career she improved a little bit from this movie, but it's her big break. She got a big billing, so that's a good career thing, and this will probably always be an iconic role.
Yeah.
So I don't think you can take that away from her.
All right.
Other side characters were actually decent, like Sam Shepard played Noah's dad.
Yeah.
That guy was amazing, but some of the other people were just kind of meh. So.
Yeah. Who played the Lon character? Or
Lon was played by James Marsden, who
which
is
I've seen him in other things.
he's
so.
in the new Sonic movie, which he was a very interesting character.
He was on Saved by the Bell. That's what it was.
Oh, he was on Saved by the Bell too.
Yep.
So I think he was decent.
Yeah.
I just don't think Finn's actor, like, I don't know, nobody really stood out. So maybe I was just like, it's a little bit below average for a movie that I felt like the cast should have been like a.
If I
bigger
didn't take
caliber.
notes during this movie, I would have completely forgot that Finn was even in that movie. So
Yeah.
That's just because they don't give him a time to shine. They just use him for the plot. So
Okay, so we're going to style now. You want to start off with this?
yeah,
one?
I gave Style a 5. That's simply because I didn't like it.
Well, I gave style a 5 too.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I-
the style was.
Style was because they did like 6 montages, a lot of random drama that didn't need to be there, and that has to do with the plot more. But the montages style I didn't really like, and just the way that they kind of did the movie in general, like how cutty it was. Like the style was like it's supposed to be a long time passes, but it's like a long time passes between like each scene, and they just keep doing jumps and they just keep going back and forth, and that's okay. But it was kind of like all over the place.
And I think it was supposed to take place over a period of 7 years, but it honestly felt like 2 years.
Yeah,
Which was a problem.
like I don't know how long it takes him to grow that beard.
You should feel like it's. I mean, it was definitely felt like it was shorter than 7 years. You should feel the time change if the movie's supposed to take place over time. And it's very unfortunate, I think, that this movie's strength is that it's like the old characters who you relate to at the end and you see their journey and that is like the strength of the movie. However, it doesn't really give it style points because it keeps cutting to it and uses narration and things that seem like they're kind of lazier as compared
Yeah.
to what you could do.
I'd say the problem was the style just wasn't consistent. They kept doing different things.
Yeah. So if they could have made it, and I think it was a little bit too long too.
Yeah.
I think this movie
2 hours for 2 choices to be made.
This could have been 140. I think 140,
I think
145.
an hour 30.
An hour 30.
I think they
an
could've
hour
done
30 would have been chop, chop, chop. We're like pacing it good.
Yeah.
We're getting it done. We're not dragging too long. The
Yeah.
ending didn't need to be as long. There was a couple other scenes that probably could have been shorter, but some things felt rushed too.
Yeah.
Like the scenes where we're just like, oh, he's in the army. Now he's not in the army, and we're like, we had to do this stuff.
That's
to,
what
like,
I'm
pass
saying.
time.
Like they keep jumping everywhere. So,
Yeah, and they had to do that to say, oh, time is passing and they're going in different directions.
But like I don't really care that much.
Yeah, but I didn't care about it at all.
No, like Finn died. I don't care at all.
Yeah, like you should care if the character's supposedly his best friend, who we get no indication that he's his best friend.
and like it cuts to his dad's funeral. Like we got to like his dad over the movie, and it just cuts to his funeral, and the narrator says his dad died that November.
yeah, it was like nothing happened, and that kind of was like, because I liked his character, and I was like,
Yeah.
man, that's kind of sad that he's dead, but nobody else seems sad. I mean, Noah's character barely seems sad.
Yeah.
And we get this like cliche scene where everyone is like leaving him alone at the funeral, but then it just cuts away.
Yeah.
There's no power to the scene. So I think that was the style.
It was too focused on the 2 characters. They didn't care about anyone else in that movie. I'd say.
Everybody else was just there to move the plot along.
Yeah.
Even Lon and Martha were just thrown in there to kind of like create some tension so that
And they got the tension, but it was yeah. I know.
it could have been done. It seems like it could have been done better. I'm not sure that I could have created a vision that
could've.
was better. Zach, screenwriting skills are on his side. So
Yes, I could have done that easily.
all right, so
Kick out Rachel McAdams.
yeah, who would you have cast instead of Rachel McAdams? I don't know who was big in
Tina Fey.
2004. Tina Fey?
Yes.
She would have been even more like
No.
rambunctious.
If she did, what is in that movie? Get Smart with
I don't think I've seen it.
it's with I think it's Tina Fey and Steve Carell are in that, and I think she did well in that. And it's
Okay.
it's like a romantic comedy. So.
Yeah, so maybe Tina Fey could have done better. I can't really think of any other the early 2000s actresses. Not really the era of my expertise, but
Anyway.
it's fine. Rachel McAdams did all right.
So what was your final rating?
So my final rating was 50 or 40 out of 80, excuse
Okay.
me, which turns out to be 50%.
I gave it a 48 out of 80, which is a 60%, which is an easy average because it's 55, right in the middle.
Yes, 55%. And that falls right where the Rotten Tomato score is at 53%. And I feel like this one is one that it gets a little bit lower rating than maybe it actually deserves because there's so many things that you can nitpick about it.
It's a long movie. There's a lot of stuff happening.
Yeah, but it's really kind of a touching movie at the end of the day.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I would probably watch it one more time or two more times in my lifetime.
Yeah, I would watch this movie again. It's not like something that I would never come back to.
It's not like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, is what you're saying.
Once upon a time in Hollywood, I would watch 4 or 5 times a day.
Yeah, that's gonna you can't watch it 4 or 5 times a day. That's gonna be 50 hours right there.
I think that'd be a little bit too much. Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, you gotta give yourself doses.
Yeah.
Too much of a good thing's a bad thing.
Yeah, maybe that's where you just used to really good acting, and this movie kind of let us down because we had Robert Pattinson, and then we had Leo and Brad, and even Margot Robbie. Maybe she would have been 11 years old in 2004.
Still would have been better. I mean, they're 17 in this movie, and then they grow up to be 25 by the time they get together.
Yeah.
So
maybe the aging was also not believable. I don't know. But yeah, so that would put it on the overall rating as the lowest movie so far, I believe.
That we've
but
ranked.
It's only 4% lower than Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
That
at
we've
55%.
ranked.
Yeah, that we've ranked. There's certainly it will not be the lowest movie on this list.
probably not. We're gonna try some other areas of movies, and we're gonna try to do different genres every week, and so yeah, and also plug that.
Yeah, so we are trying to get some ideas as to how we should go about choosing movies. And so if you have any ideas, you could either DM us at our Instagram account which is at the Movie Vault Pod on Instagram, or you could email us at themovievaultpod@gmail.com. If you use either of these methods, I will make sure that I get back to you. I would really appreciate feedback. We could try to do polls. We could try to I don't know what other systems, if you have any suggestions as to how we should do this, because we got a lot of suggestions from listeners, a lot of good movies.
Yeah, we got a lot of suggestions from listeners, actually. We have a list of movies that people want us to watch. So, right,
yeah.
We're just keeping track of that. And then if we get more people to like the same types of movies, then we'll definitely do those. Because we had 2 different suggestions for this movie, The Notebook.
Yes.
It came from 2 different people. So then we're like, okay, we should probably
And
watch
ultimately, we're here for you. We want to watch what you want to watch.
Well, we will watch what you want to watch.
We will watch what you want to watch. We don't necessarily want to, but we will, because we're good podcasters and we're not
bad podcasters.
Yeah, we're not bad. Definitely pro level, for sure.
And pro-life.
Pro life too. And then
Anywho, so hit us up at any of those accounts, and we'll try to get back to you right away. And also, I'd like to give a shout out to Sandy, Miss Sandy, which is Ben's grandma, who apparently listens to our podcast. Welcome, Miss Sandy. We're glad to have you.
yes, thank you for listening, Grandma. This is probably more your kind of movie than the first 2 were anyway.
Yeah.
So hopefully to watch it.
Yeah. And if you think we're wrong, please let Ben know, and he'll let me know. So yeah. And any final thoughts, Ben, on the movie altogether?
Yeah, I think people might be a little harsh on people out there might be a little harsh on me for my rating of this movie. I liked it. I gave it right at 50, which is average, but I still liked it. So don't come at me too hard, I guess.
Yeah. I do think that would have been better at the 45-minute mark just ending, because I think at the 45-minute arc is when they finally meet back together after those many years. They get in a conversation with each other, and they're just 2 different people that used to be crazy about each other but now know that they're distant. And I feel like an ending like that, that's more or less ambiguous / teaching a lesson about people growing apart and what's healthy about apart, because sometimes growing apart is the healthy decision to make. I think that ending it there would have been pretty cool. But
they should have just made it 45 minutes like our podcast.
yeah,
a perfect length.
Yeah, perfect length.
That's not a feature film, but hey, whatever.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, so overall the movie I thought was actually pretty good.
All right. So if you have any more thoughts, make sure to check out the accounts that I mentioned. They'll be in our bio too. And with that, I will have to say, peace out.
Peace.